As you wish, Regimen replied, as he raised his hands, snapping his fingers, and a set of pieces appeared on the chessboard, white and black. I'll give you the first move. Let's try to enjoy ourselves, shall we? Regimen replied, as he reached down, taking another sip of his tea, kicking his leg up over the other one, and getting relaxed. You know, fairness is quite an interesting concept, Regimen said. A nonsensical one, but I still enjoy it all the same. That's why I like games. Regardless of how anyone likes to stretch it, games are made to be fair, to favor no one. And it is from that element of fairness that true enjoyment can be experienced. And yet, our game is hardly going to be fair now, is it? I mean, after all, you know everything. The future, the past, what's going through my mind at this very moment. It's not really a fair game if you can read your opponent's mind. If you know the moves that they're going to make before they make them. If you know the end result of the game before it takes place. It lacks fairness, and thus cannot truly be enjoyed. Is this a concept that you can understand? Yes, Reginald. It is a concept that I understand. And yet the first test arrives. Your test of me, that is. You wish to know if I am arrogant, if I will cast aside my godly sight in order to have a fair exchange with you. I know that you will make an assumption, regardless of what I choose. But it will not affect the outcome, the All-Force said, as a sudden shifting of its colors took place, only for an instant, its colors changing their flow ever so gently. There, I have effectively sealed away from myself knowledge of the game, its outcome, my ability to see all future events in accordance with it, and to perceive the thoughts in your mind. The game is now fair. Very gracious of you, Regimen replied. You don't seem at all worried that you might lose. That, Regimen, would be an impossibility. Such a thing could never occur. And you claim not to be arrogant. Simply because I have made the game fair does not mean that we are fairly matched, Reginald. I may not be able to read your mind, hear your thoughts, or see the future moves you will make or the end result of the game. However, we vastly differ in one category that cannot be circumvented. Experience and knowledge, Reginald. Both my experience and my knowledge are infinite. Therefore, it does not matter if I can read your mind, if I know the outcome of the game in specific detail. I am smart enough to know what the end result will be. The experience between us is simply too great, the All-Force said as it began moving chess pieces on the board, Reginald doing the same, never taking their eyes off of each other, or at least Delius thought so. The All-Force didn't really have eyes. However, the direction it seemed to be looking never changed, and neither did Reginald's. They simply continued to play the game as they spoke, sipping their tea, as if the game were simply something in the background, as if they weren't truly focusing on it, as if the conversation were the confrontation, and the chess game were simply a secondary match, two confrontations at once, both running simultaneously. So, All-Force, Regimen began to say. No, Reginald, I will not tell you about your predecessor, the All-Force replied. I thought you were going to stay out of my head. In terms of reading your mind, yes, I have sealed off that ability. Your thoughts are your own, and I have only knowledge of you to make insight. However, once again, the difference is experience. I know the whole of your existence, from the very moment that your father's seed and your mother's egg became one, and your soul came into being. And even from before that, your previous lifetimes. I have seen it all, Reginald. I may not be able to read your mind, but once again, it's unnecessary to know what's on it. You have already put together that the individual who hired you for this job was familiar with your predecessor, a man whom was so secretive about everything that to this very day, even though you are the one responsible for his death, you do not even know his name. At first you thought this individual might simply be another alien from another world, but then he spoke of Earth in familiarity, a sense of home, which means he's from there, same as you. And yet, he possesses technology far beyond anything that those dwelling on Earth possess, far more advanced than anything you've ever seen. And then there were my statements to him about allowing him to do something that could negatively affect time. That's when you put it together, that this individual is from your Earth's future, that he simply traveled backwards in time, which makes you wonder if your predecessor is truly gone and forgotten. You wish to know whether he is dead, or whether he will simply re-emerge at some point in time in the future. Come in contact with the individual standing before you. You're very smart, Reginald. However, the answers to the question that you are trying to push out of me are yours to discover. Whether he is alive or dead, whether he will re-emerge from death as he has done before, these are things that you must discover on your own. It is your path to walk. Telling you in either the negative or the affirmative would only alter the course you walk. It is yours, and you must walk it alone. Well, aren't you clever? Regimen said, moving his chess piece once more. Yes, Reginald, as are you. Incredibly so. It is in fact one of your greatest assets, the All-Force said as it moved another chess piece. Checkmate, the All-Force said as Regimen looked back down at the board for a moment with a look of interest, bewilderment, and some frustration. I know it upsets you, Reginald, the All-Force said as Reginald looked back to him. You do not like to lose. It is something that you despise. You have always been a master of games, able to outthink and outstrategize basically any enemy. It has saved your lives and the lives of those nearest to you on countless occasions. It is in fact how you have reached the point that you are at. No matter the situation, to you it is simply the mastery of a game. Even now, I imagine that you're beginning to reference this sensation, the sensation of losing, something that you very rarely experience, as the only person who ever truly beat you at chess was your predecessor. No doubt this reminds you of facing off against him in a game of chess, the only man you could never beat. No matter how many times you played him, he always won, which both infuriated you as well as inspired you. To be truthful about it, you are very conflicted, Reginald. You see, while you may not admit it to others, you emulate your predecessor in many ways. Sometimes on purpose, other times it is simply a feeling of familiarity in which you find yourself feeling that your ideas and his align, which is not a great mystery given your relationship and your very existences. However, with this comes a great deal of fear, Reginald. It is a double-edged sword. You both fear becoming him, as well as fear that you will never become him. Because while you may be like your predecessor in so very many ways, you are also different in some ways that are quite profound. Your predecessor had nothing and everything. For all the power he possessed, the influence he held, there was no one there to share it with him. He had long since cast away any shred of love or compassion that dwelled within his being. Even if they attempted to surface, he shunned them at all costs. It is in this manner that you are different, and it is the focal point of your fear. You fear that if you do not become him, then you will never wield the power that he truly possessed, that somehow it will be beyond you, that the kindness that dwells in your heart, the kind that you hide away from the world to pretend that you are just as cold and cruel as your predecessor truly was, will be your undoing, will cost you everything, because it keeps you from rising to his level, to being truly unbeatable. And yet, it is that same kindness that dwells within you that you fear losing. You fear losing the people most precious to you. You fear losing yourself once you no longer have them to hold on to. If there is a difference between you and your predecessor, then that is it. It is the humanity that he left behind, but that you still possess. Despite all the trials and suffering that you have been through, unlike him, you refused to relinquish it, and you fear that this makes you weaker. But in your heart, you hope that it is the opposite, that it is the things you cling to the most that make you stronger than him, that allow you to surmount the fear. Reginald P. Worthington.